Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about the concept, the OSI model. OSI means Open System Interconnection Model. It is established in 1947. The International Standard Organization has established the OSI model. The ISO is a net, it is a standard. It covers all aspects of network communications. Here, ISO means the organization. OSI means model. Next, come to the seven layers of OSI model. Name it as application, presentation, session, transport, network, data link, and physical. Next one, interfaces between layers. What are the interfaces that are present inside the layers? Here, the lower three layers come under hardware layers, and then upper three layers are purely related to software. Center point transport layer comes under both software and hardware part. Here, each device has to come across these seven layers and send to the receiver, that is device B. Here, intermediate node may be router or another devices. Okay, and then exchange using OSI model. Suppose sender wants to communicate to the receiver, it has to come across seven layers. Then only it has to transfer the data to the transmission medium. For each and every layer, it has to add some header information and send it to the receiver via transmission medium. So these are the layers. First one is physical layer. Physical layer is responsible for movement of bits from one hop to the next hop. That is the main responsibility of physical layer. And then sub responsibilities are, it is mainly used to represent the bits. Here, the entire message has to convert in the form of bits. Bits may be represented as zeros or ones, and then data rate. Data rate, how fast it effectively send the data from sender to receiver, and then synchronization of bits. Both sender side and receiver side data rate should be same, then only we can achieve synchronization. And then line configuration, that maybe comes under point to point or multi point. And then physical topology, these topics are already discussed in the previous topic itself. Physical topology means either maybe a mesh topology, star, bus, or ring. Mainly star topology used for LAN concepts. And then transmission mode, physical layer has to decide which type of transmission mode has to use, either simplex, soft duplex, or full duplex. These are the responsibilities of the physical layer. It has to monitor the thing. The next one is data link layer. Data link layer is responsible for movement of frames from one hop to the next hop. First one, sub responsibilities are framing, physical addressing, flow control, error control, and access control. Framing means entire bits has to be converted in the form of frames. Two or more bits converted to frames. Physical addressing means MAC address. Each device has to have the physical address. Each device needs an address to identify it. So we need physical addressing for each device. That physical addressing properties are handled by the data link layer. Next one, flow control. Flow control is mainly established in the data link layer from one hop to the next hop. Sender data rate and then receiver data rate should be same. That control procedures are established by the data link layer. Next one, error control. Whatever the data sent by the sender, that should be received by the receiver without any error. That error detection and control mechanisms that also established in the data link layer. And then access control. Access control means at particular time which device has control over the particular link, that is maintained by the data link layer. The next one, hop to hop delivery. Data link layer main responsibility is it mainly transfer the data from one hop to the next hop without any error, without any loss of control. It directly transfer the data from one device to the next device. That is the responsibility of data link layer. Next one, network layer. Network layer is responsible for delivery of the packets from one device to the next device, source host to the destination host. The main sub responsibilities are logical addressing and routing. uh, opposite to the data link layer, it mainly responsible for creating logical address. Logical address here is IP address. Suppose the particular device enter into the network, it needs an IP address, and that IP addressing, assigning of IP address are handled by the network layer. And the next one is routing. After assigning the IP address, it has to properly route the packets to the destination. That functions are carried over by the network layer. First one, source to destination delivery. So it establishes a complete path from the source to destination. Next one, transport layer. Transport layer is responsible for delivery of message from one host to the one process to the next host. As opposite to the network layer, transport layer is responsible for delivery of entire message from the one process to another. Network layer is responsible for only source to destination. Transport layer is responsible for delivery of messages or message from one process to the another process. Next one, it needs an service point addressing. As opposed to the network layer, it needs an IP addressing. As in the case of transport layer, it needs a service point addressing. In addition to IP address, it needs an port address in order to identify the process. That is called service point addressing. Service point addressing comprises of both IP address and port address. And then next is segmentation and reassembly. Segmentation means suppose higher layer packets arrive with a longer length, so the entire message has to divided into number of segments, and the receiver side that has to be reassembled by the same transport layer. And the next one, connection control, flow control, error control, these are the same as data link layer. Why we need here separately means it we have to establish the procedure for the entire path. That's why transport layer again needs the flow control, error control procedures. These are all the things we have already explained. Segmentation and reassembly. The layers and the packets received from the session layer may be longer length. In the transport layer, that messages has to be divided into number of segments and sent to the network layer. The receiver side, from the network layer, the packets are uh, converted into segments. Group of packets that is formed into segments and sent to the session layer. The next one, session layer. Session layer is responsible for dialog control and synchronization. So it maintains the time, which at particular time, with at what time the particular session has to start, and what particular time the session has to end, and establish the synchronization points between the sender and receiver. That is the main responsibility of session layer. Next one, presentation layer. Presentation layer, it mainly responsible for translation, compression, and encryption. Suppose the message length is lengther, that compression mechanism has to be established in the presentation layer, and then somewhat the encryption technique that also established to provide secure access. That is the responsibility of presentation layer. Next one, application layer. Application layer is responsible for providing services to the user by the use of protocols. Through the use of HTTP DNS protocol, it establishes the services to the users. These are the summary of layers. Physical layer is responsible for transmission of bits. Data link layer is responsible for transferring of that is frames. And network layer is responsible for transferring of packets. Transport layer is responsible for transferring of messages from one process to the next process. And then session layer is mainly used to do for session control and synchronization. Presentation layer, it mainly used for translation, encryption, and compression. Application layer, it provides services to the user.